Today in Algebra 2, Chapter 4, Section 3, we're going to look at some more factoring patterns. So far we have just looked at some pretty easy stuff, just factoring a regular trinomial. Now we're going to look at a binomial that's called the difference of two squares. The difference of two squares, difference implying that there's got to be a subtraction sign, which we have right here, and of two squares, meaning that the two numbers have a square root. So x squared has a square root of x, and 49 has a square root of 7. So again, we're just going to write our factoring parentheses here, and we're going to have the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 49 is 7, and 7. Okay, you notice that our linear term is gone here. The x to the 1 is gone, and this is why. You're going to, and to get a negative 49, you have to have a positive and a negative. So when you multiply that back out, you have x times x is x squared. Then right here you have a negative 7x, and this product gives you a positive 7x. So those two things end up canceling each other out. And then you have positive 7 times negative 7 is negative 49. So your middle terms end up collapsing. They cancel each other out, and that's called the difference of two squares. It's very simple. Here are two more examples of the difference of two squares. Again, difference meaning there's a subtraction sign. Two squares meaning that each term has a whole number square root. Alright, and your linear term is eliminated. So when we do this, we're going to write our factoring symbols here. How do we get x squared? X and x. What is the square root of 9? 3. 3. How do we get a negative? A positive and a negative. So that right here we're going to get a positive 3x. When we multiply those, you get a negative 3x, and those eliminate each other. Then here, that's the x squared. And right here, that is minus 9. And your two linear terms eliminate each other. Okay, one more. Okay. How do you get x squared? X times x. What's the square root of 100? 10 times 10. One is positive, one is negative. Again, x times x is x squared. And then you're going to have the positive 10x here and the negative 10x here. Those eliminate each other. And then you have a positive 10 times a negative 10, which is negative 100. So it gets you back to your original. So this is your answer right here. The last factoring pattern that we're going to look at in this section is a perfect square trinomial. And you have a perfect square trinomial when you look at this and you say, okay, your coefficient of your x is 16, and half of 16 is 8, and the square root of 64 is 8. And so that gives you a perfect square trinomial. What that means is you don't even really have to recognize it, because we're still going to factor it the same way. What's the square root of x squared? X and x. What are the factors of 64 that add to give you 16? Well, 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64, but 8 plus 8 is 16. So we're going to put an 8 in here and an 8 in here. All the signs are positive, so we have two positives. And so all that's wanting you to see is that you're going to get the same factor right here, and you can write it as x plus 8 quantity squared. Either one of these ways is perfectly acceptable to me, whichever way you want to do it. And when you see that, and they are talking about perfect square trinomials, that's what they're talking about. But that's not a huge big issue to me because you can still solve it the same way that we did on yesterday's lesson. Here is one more example of the perfect square trinomial. Okay. What's the square root of x squared? The only way to get that is to go x times x. The square root of 81 is 9. So if we did 9 times 9, we get 81. But then 9 plus 9, okay, because remember your factors have to add to give you your middle term, which is 18. So 9 plus 9 is 18, so we're going to use 9. Now to get a positive on the end, you either have to have a positive times a positive or the negative times the negative. Because your middle term is negative right here, you're going to use the two negatives, so that when you multiply this back out, you would get x times x is x squared. And then here you would get minus 9x. Here you get minus 9x. And then negative 9 times negative 9 would be a positive 81. And your two linear terms combine to give you the negative 18x. So you would be back to x squared minus 18x plus 81. So that's, again, the factoring pattern. You can write it like that, x minus 9 times x minus 9. Or you can just write it as x minus 9 quantity squared. You have to make sure you put it in a quantity if you're going to square it. That's all I have for today. Okay, so to add on from yesterday's lessons, I want you to go to page 256 and add on problems number 15 through 23. Y'all have a great day.